Welcome back to the 4A Baseball Podcast. We are recording this on Tuesday, January 31st, 2023. No big news today. A couple of people avoided arbitration. Biggest news comes from Canada, where the Blue Jays added Chad Green on a 2-year, $8 million contract. Obviously, you're listening on Friday, so if you were up to date on Steps Checks on TikTok, you'd have known this by now. So we're heading to third base today, where Max Muncy, contrary to popular belief, will not be making my honorable mentions. How are we doing today, boys?
I'm doing good. I'm happy Max Muncy will not be talked about today because he is not on any of our lists or an honorable mention. Stebbs, how are you doing?
I'm excited. This list is very top heavy, and then past like 6 or 7, it's just like up in the air in all honesty. But I think my list came out pretty good.
I'd like to think so for myself as well. So kicking off with honorable mentions, I wanted to talk about a guy that I hope's not in your guys' top 10, but I'll appreciate it if he is Eduardo Escobar of the New York Mets. So I have a little bit of history with this guy. That sounded wrong. My first MLB The Show game was MLB The Show 19. And I have a bit of bias because he was like a gold card and he was a conquest demon. This is also a side note within a side note. If you're younger and trying to get into the baseball, MLB The Show is a great way to learn players and to learn rosters. It doesn't really like do a good job of telling you who's good and who's not, because like some of the best players are silver cards, but it's a good place to start. He's been pretty consistent for the past 5 years, putting up 2.3 to 3.5 WAR, and he's consistently 10% above average. Honorable guy.
That's fair. I definitely agree with your point that if you're trying to break into a sport and actually like learn about it, definitely like go through the video games. Like that's how I learned a lot about 2K, or that's how I learned a lot about basketball is through 2K, which again, not the best source, but not bad at all. I like that honorable mention. He's not one of mine just because I just don't like Eduardo Escobar. Probably not as much as you do. But I wanted to talk about Alec Bohm. I think he deserves to get mentioned. He needs a lot of work defensively, but he is a very good hitter, and I think he has a lot of upside, especially now that he has guys like Trey Turner coming in.
Yeah, that's a good one. I picked a guy. I don't think anyone picked him. It's Brian Hayes. This is a guy I'm just keeping my eye on, especially this season. You go into his stats, you would have thought his average exit velocity is bad. His velocity is bad. He doesn't hit the ball hard. Obviously, we know he has that glove in the field, so he's valuable on one side of the field, but he's never seen that offensive production. And now going into his advanced statistics, you can see that he has the stuff. When you have a high exit velocity and high hard hit percentage, and you're hitting the ball hard, but you have a very low expected WOBA and a low barrel percentage, you know that he's hitting it down to the ground a lot. So this is a guy with a career, career 52% ground ball rate. I think if he can start to, it's a launch angle type thing. I think if Brian Hayes can adjust his launch angle, he will be a guy who can drive the ball into gaps or over the fence. I think this is a guy that has a lot of upside on the hitting side, and that's something that's not really talked about because his glove is so good.
I like Brian Hayes, and I will talk about him later.
Yeah.
You fool.
Any other honorable mentions, guys?
I want to talk about Ryan McMahon. He's on the Rockies, which just sucks, but I think
they're going to play 500 ball this year.
They're going to play 500 ball. That's true. But I think he definitely needs to be talked about. He's a very good hitter, and he has the Coors effect to help him. But I think if he can get on a contending team, he will definitely be able to help them out, both offensively and defensively.
I could see that. I think he's a guy that kind of does benefit from being in Coors.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull up his splits to see home versus away this year. Home versus away.
I don't think it was anything egregious.
It was
it's not
egregious. 827 OPS at home, 645 on the road.
That's not that different.
That's pretty bad. Okay.
All right. Any others?
That's all for me. I'm ready to hop into the list.
Well, I think Stevs and I have a guy on our list. I don't know if this is Stevs number 10. He's my number 10 in Brian Hayes.
I'm right there with you,
Hayes. It's a little bit of the Tommy Edman argument that his defense is so good. Like this guy, contrary again to popular belief, this is the best defensive third baseman in baseball. He has been it for the past 2 years, and his defense is so good that it puts him in the top 10. He had below average offense and put up 3 F4. Tom kind of talked about how like why his bat isn't that good. A breakout would occur if he hit line drives. That's really what it comes down to. His xWOBA stays below average because he doesn't launch the ball. and he doesn't barrel the ball because he doesn't launch the ball. So if you haven't picked up what I'm putting down, start launching the ball. Brian Hayes will help you.
I'm right there with you, Brad. I think for me, I think it came down to Brian Hayes or Ryan McMahon to for that number 10 spot, and their hitting splits are pretty much identical. I think, yeah, McMahon edges him out just by a little bit, but 18 outs above average is absolutely insane compared to the 9 for McMahon. And I think he deserves a spot in the top 10. I'm interested to see who Tom's number 10 is.
Well, I had it between Brian Hayes and Alec Bohm. I know the advanced statistics
Bohm.
don't really like Alec Bohm, but he's a hitting machine. He just gets hits. He has a good his plate his approach to the play has gotten significantly better. He doesn't walk as much, but he's cut down on strikeouts. He hits the ball to all parts of the field. The glove is horrendous. Do not get me wrong, the glove is horrendous. But the bat has been getting better every season, and he's just one of the best contact hitting third basemen in the game. And I think the defense will get better this season. And a lot of reason why you guys are putting Brian Hayes high is obviously because of the glove, but it's because you guys want him to hit better. But he's really a below average hitter. And I think when we look at a guy like Alec Bohm, he is a very good hitter, and he's a hitting machine.
And
He's been doing this since he came
below
up.
average fielder.
Yeah, but Brad,
It's
you're
the
muted.
same argument, Brad. You're muted.
That's great. We're taking Brian Hayes at his value for fielding right now.
Yeah,
that's-
yeah.
And you took Bohm for his value at hitting.
Yeah.
I feel like
think
if one of the Phillies is going to have to step up other than Trey Turner, it's going to have to be Alec Bohm, and he did in the postseason last year. He's a good bat, and I'm high on him. I've watched him since he came up out of the minors.
What about JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Reese Hoskins, Brandon
to mention the
Marsh,
pitchers.
Bryson Stott?
Those guys seem to all go dormant last year in the postseason, except for Bohm and Harper
Schwarber.
and Hoskins.
Reese
Schwarber, Hoskins
Tom,
played one good series.
Tom, you're bad. You're just bad. Bohm is not the number. Bohm is not the number 2 guy to step up on that Phillies team. I'm sorry, he's just not.
On the offensive production side of things, well, obviously you got Schwarber and Harper and Turner, but
Realmuto
is not.
Forgetting about the best catcher in baseball.
I don't know. Offensive production. Let's just. I'm just going Alec Bohm. It was between Alec Bohm and Brian Hayes.
I'm not upset with it. I'm not upset with it. For me, the 2 honorable mentions in Brian Hayes were within striking distance. All 3 of them could have been 10. It's just, especially at third base in the hot corner, you need a good defensive player.
Honestly, the other guy I even contemplated for my honorable mention was Jose Miranda of the Twins. He ended up not being honorable. He was not honorable.
He was not honorable.
He was not, in fact, honorable. Tom, who's your number 9?
I had Gino Suarez, Eugenio Suarez. Really a bounce back year from him. You see the power going back into his bat. Obviously, the glove is right around league average. But we saw a couple down. I think it was 1 or 2 down seasons from him, and he seems to be back to his old form. He's hitting nukes, slugging at a high rate. Still a pull hitter. I think he might benefit from this shift ban. He walks an awful lot. He does strike out a lot. That's his approach to the plate, though. When you have a power hitter like that, you are going to strike out a lot more. I'm excited to see how he can continue, though. He really seemed to have hit a stride in Seattle. Sorry.
I'm right there with you, Tom. I had him there. They moved him and let him play third base. The entirety of last season, Seattle let him play third base, and he was back to being a average fielder opposed to a below average fielder, and he can hit the crap out of the ball. So that's really all you need to make this top 10.
He had a -9 run value or outs above average as a shortstop last year.
Yeah. Again, they moved him to third. That's my point.
If you haven't picked it up, I also have him at 9. This is like a collective. Oh my God. It wasn't like our number 1 that we all agreed with. I think this might be the first time. I'm proud of you guys.
I think
I'm proud of us. Eugenio Suarez, I said he kind of fell off the face of the earth and then he returned. He's back on earth.
Sure.
Is the second highest career barrel rate, and Tom points out he strikes out a lot, but he also walks a ton. And he doesn't really chase, he doesn't chase outside of the zone. And when he was doing his damage, he was handling pitches in the heart of the plate, and he started doing that again this year, and he was better this year. So, shocker there. At number 8, I had Matt Chapman, another great defensive glove who took a step back and was in the 72nd percentile of outs above average. Again, give me guys who step backs the 72nd percentile. In terms of percentiles, 2022 was his best season on record, but it kind of points out the flaws in those types of stats and predicting a player's stat line. Like it was his second worst season in terms of OPS. When he was at his best, he was hitting fastballs really well, something he hasn't done in the last 3 years. And his chase rate is ridiculous, but his swing profile shows that he whiffs a lot at pitches in the middle of the zone.
Yeah, and this StatCast page kind of confuses me because you got a guy with all red across the board, obviously low expected batting average and a high K rate, but he walks, he hits the ball hard, has a high expected WOBA, has a high barrel percentage. This is a guy that you would expect to have a monster season at the plate, but it really wasn't crazy. It was nothing crazy, and that glove did fall off a little bit. I think a couple seasons ago, maybe last season, you could say he's a little bit higher, but I think I'm right there with you, Brad. I got Matt Chapman at 8.
Stevens.
You want to make it 2 in a row? Matt Chapman is.
Let's go!
I mean, again, you said it all. For me, kind of, we just talked about it with shortstops. But it's just the sample size that I have with him in Toronto is he's a slightly above average fielder and I'm not in a okay hitter, right? So I want to see him take that step forward before I put him any higher than 8.
Yeah, and I was like trying to diagnose like why he's kind of sucking as a hitter right now, even though the percentiles may say otherwise. He's a very much launch the ball type hitter. But he has well above average speed. He runs 28.4 feet per second, and he's a guy that might actually benefit from launching the ball less. His 2 best seasons, he had a launch angle of 14.9 and 16.6 degrees. And this season, he had a 19-degree launch angle. So maybe if he starts like hitting it on a line a little bit more, he's a guy that could see positive regression.
Yeah, and I think
agree.
I think there's room to improve for him. I think before he signed the deal with the Blue Jays, he was a better player, and I think he's bound to return to that soon.
So number 7. Are we gonna hit it again?
I think we're gonna hit it again because there's only one option here. It's Yandy Diaz, right?
It's Yandy, but yeah.
It's
It's
Yandy.
Yandy.
Yeah. I mean,
Did we do
this
it?
guy, we did
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
We did it!
Yeah,
Yandy.
that's 3.
Let's
That's 3 in
go!
a row.
I don't understand. You look at a guy like
Yandy.
Diaz, and you look at his Stev stats, and they're like, yeah, he's a good contact hitter. And then you look at his
It's
percentiles, you're like,
296.
oh my god, it's like 93rd average exit velocity, 95th percentile max exit velocity, high expected WOBA, high batting average, high K, no strike. He strikes out. He doesn't strike out. Walks a ton. Doesn't swing at pitches outside the zone. I'm in awe right here. This is another guy that I think, similar to Brian Hayes, would benefit from launching the ball more. I looked at his ground ball rate was just hovering around 50%, but for his career he's at 52. I think this is a guy who would greatly benefit from launching the ball a little bit more, because you see the exit velocities, you see the power in his bat, but that translates to 9 home runs, and in his six career seasons he has 39 home runs. Does that ever start to translate for Yandy Diaz?
Maybe. I mean, he's in Tampa Bay, but why fix it if it ain't broken?
Yeah, when you see those tools, the exit velocity, the hard hit percentage, the barrel rate's extremely low. Is that because of that launch angle? You see most of his hits are infield hits.
Barrel is you have to launch it between, I think it's 10 and 25 degrees.
I think this is a guy. I mean, you look at those stats. You can compare those hitting stats to like some of the best in the game. And obviously his production is great to the team right now, but this is someone that looks like they could be like, if I just showed you these percentiles, you would assume that they had 30 home runs and that they were like a 950 OPS. But I mean, it's still a great player. The glove is absolutely horrendous. The field, you don't pick Yandy Diaz for the fielding, but I would just expect some positive regression next season. Do you expect him to make another leap next season?
100%. Him and a guy we'll talk about in a little bit are the only third baseman with a higher walk rate than strikeout rate, or qualified third baseman. And of qualified hitters in 2022, Yandy Diaz ranked 5th in on base percentage behind MVP Paul Goldschmidt, best pure hitter in baseball Yordan Alvarez, best first baseman Freddie Freeman, and MVP Aaron Judge. I think that's a pretty good group to be in.
That's pretty good.
I just don't know where it came from. I mean, this is a guy coming from what was it, the Guardians?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been on the Rays for a little, and no one seemed to know his name until really last season and this season really came onto the scene. And I mean, he's just getting better every year. I'm pretty high on this guy. I don't know how many more jumps he can make just because the 6 guys ahead of him are crazy. I mean, these are all like superstar category now. But I do like Yandy going into the season.
I agree. I mean, I think Tom pretty much hit everything. It's just his glove is so atrociously bad that you cannot have him any higher than this.
All right. What are the odds we can hit 4 in a row?
I think
Not
it's
high.
decently high. No, it's impossible.
Tom,
Brad,
where
you
we
go.
at?
No, Brad, I got the last one. You go with this one. I'm
I have
curious.
Alex Bregman at number 6.
Steves.
I have Austin Riley.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, that's horrendous. Okay. It pains me to do this. It really does. Because I love this guy, but I put Rafael Devers at 6. Do you want to do a quick run through for your reasons? I'll go through my
Well,
reasons
I
after you
have
guys.
Austin Riley at 5 and Rafael Devers at 4. So I think we're gonna hit them all in a row.
I think we're gonna have all 3 of these guys right here. It's just a matter of the order.
Stubbs, do you have Devers at 5?
I have Devers at 5 and Bregman at 4.
Okay. I'm gonna start with Bregman. He kind of returned to form in 2022 after not really showing much of anything the past 2 seasons. An 820 OPS might not jump off the page, but all the peripheral support that he was even better. He ranked in the 94th percentile for outs above average, recording 8 outs above average itself. And he's never been a hard hit threat. He always puts the ball in play, and his WOBA performs very similar to xWOBA, so you kind of know what you're going to get out of him. An issue he'd had over the past 2 seasons is that the fact he wasn't hitting four-seam fastballs. In 2019, he had a plus 21 run value. In 20 and 21, he had a negative 4. And this year, he was back to a positive 12. So I think when he's hitting the fastballs, he's an elite third baseman.
Yeah, and that's
That's
not to
fair.
mention he's got such a veteran approach to the plate. He doesn't strike out. He has a high walk rate, doesn't swing at pitches outside the zone, doesn't swing and miss often at all. Not crazy fast, but you're getting a good glove in the field. This is a guy that another one of the Houston Astros scandal players that is proven that they don't really need it. I mean, for someone that relied on trash cans to know what pitch was coming, he's fairly good at knowing what pitch is coming again. So I had him at 5. But let me talk about Rafael Devers really quick. This pained me to do. Because you got a guy like Rafael Devers, and I think Rafael Devers and Austin Riley are built similar in some instances, how they have both insane bats and they lack glove. They lack a fielding aspect. And Rafael Devers is just slightly worse, in my opinion. Rafael Devers, you can go through splits. He started the steps.
I'm
Shut
just gonna
up.
talk. Keep going. Keep
Shut
going.
up.
I literally said talk.
Okay. So Rafael Devers in the month of May hit 381, had an OPS at 1133, and he was just so good. And then August came around, he dealt with some injuries, and that obviously lowered his statistics a lot, like pretty significantly actually. I think if he didn't have that month of August, you're looking at one of the best in the game. But that month of August really kind of dragged everything down with it. I like Rafael Devers, but his glove is not that good. And Austin Riley is in the top like 1 percentile in nearly every hitting stat. So it's like it's top 3 maybe. Brad, do you want to talk about
I want to let Stebbs hop on Austin Riley real quick.
Steps hop on Austin?
So for me, right, I use the Stev metrics of I like average, I like OPS, and again, Tom said it. Austin Riley and Rafael Devers are 2 very, very similar players. Devers had a 295 average to Riley's 273, and then an OPS of 879 to 878. So right, they're like right there with each other. They're not too far off, and I can 100% understand why Tom would put Riley above Devers. But you talk about how you say that you think Riley is slightly better than Devers. The difference for me is Devers hits 295 with a -2 outs, I guess below average, and Riley hits 273 to a -6. For me,
Steps,
I can't put Riley above Devers for that.
you're
With
ignoring
that logic, why is Bregman
yeah.
why is Bregman above Riley?
Because Bregman has good outs above average.
He hit
and
259.
Yeah, but he has 8 outs above average.
But Steps
They had the same WAR.
That doesn't matter.
WAR balances it out.
Yes.
Also,
But again,
you're ignoring the home run totals, which by the way are fairly significant, being 38 to
okay,
27.
I've always been low on Riley compared to you. You've loved Riley since he
Stevs,
since he walked onto the scene. You angered me.
but if we want to talk about like significant months, we obviously have Devers' month of May, but then in the month of June, Austin Riley came out, or sorry, the month of July, Austin Riley came out with a 1344 OPS, 423 batting average, 11 home runs in 1 month, 15 doubles, 44 hits in 1 month. That is one of the craziest months I've ever seen. Whenever I turn the TV on, which I did a lot to watch this guy during the months because he was the hottest hitter in baseball, he was hitting the ball like missiles, and it was like the perfect launch angle every at bat, and it was just beautiful to see. I watched it in person too when Atlanta came to visit the Nats. Um, this is his ceiling, obviously, but I think that Austin Riley has a slightly higher ceiling on the hitting side of things than Devers.
That's fair. I can't
Um,
argue with that.
I'm gonna enter my Devers versus Riley argument because I have them
Yeah,
at 5 and 4, and that's what it was. It was an argument of who's better between the two of them. They were neck and neck. Austin Riley emerged in 2021 as a premier bat at the third base position. The issue is that he's pretty much all bat with a lot of strikeout and an average walk. He destroys curveballs and sliders like he is the father of them. Devers is the reason he's a little bit above is because, in all honesty, he's done it for more seasons. She's more reliable over time. And their top two lines and percentiles are pretty much identical. Riley has a bit more speed. Devers strikes out less. And in 2021, his xWOBA put him in the top 6% of the league. Well, this year he posted a 361, putting him in the top 8% of the league. And he hits the ball slightly harder on average with a more diverse run value.
you're talking about
Devers.
hold on, let me just
Devers' run
yeah.
value is a bit more diverse than Austin Riley's.
So you have Riley Devers.
Riley at 5, Devers at 4.
I can understand why Bregman's at 3 for you. This is a guy
Bregman's
with
at
such
6.
Oh wait, no, sorry, yeah, Bregman's. I can see why Bregman's at 6 because it's hard to weigh in Bregman's more completeness, but still like it's hard to compare a two-dimensional player to a one-dimensional player because you got Devers and Riley who are both very similar players, and then you got Alex Bregman who's more two-dimensional. He's got everything now. So it's hard to kind of rank what you think. What you kind of have to put your value on something. Like Bregman's batting stats aren't going to blow you away. His fielding stats are good, but his approach to the plate makes him almost the same amount of eliteness, in my opinion. Which is
So
why
where do
I
you
kind
have
of put him in. I put Bregman at I think it was 5 between Riley and Devers. I had Devers at 6, Bregman at 5, and Riley at 4.
Stevs?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong with any of these players. For me, I had Devers at 5 just because I like what he brings to the table. He hits the ball well. He has a below average glove, but a better below average glove than Austin Riley. Very good in a lot of statistics, a lot of red on his percentiles page. So I don't think you can go wrong with any of these three guys between 4 to 6.
So I'm just planning ahead, right? We're gonna have to rank these guys, and they each have a 4, they each have a 5, and they each have a 6.
We will get to that when we get to that.
Okay. Any other notes on these 3 guys for you guys?
No, I think I've pretty much covered everything. I think Bregman took a major step forward last season from his previous seasons, which is why I had him above these two. And again, Tom talked about it. He's more of a two-dimensional player compared to these guys, one-dimensional just hitting. So for that, I put him above these two.
All right, who's
All
bringing
right,
us into number 3?
we should be
I
on the
got
same
it.
page. Yeah.
We should be on the same
We
page at 3,
should.
but number 3, Jose Ramirez.
Okay, good.
Okay, good. Thank God.
Yes.
Okay.
I should have said it.
Jose Ramirez is a fantastic baseball player, but 2022 is probably his worst season since either 2019 or 16. That said, it was still ridiculously good. Low strikeout rate, high walk rate, runs the bases ridiculously well. The glove is solid, but the arm is poor. He's going to benefit from the disappearance of the shift because he's someone that, like, from year to year, it's weird. He varies which side he's better at, like hitting wise. in 2022, I'm pulling this up, sorry. As a right-handed hitter with no shift, he was a 330 WOBA with a 240 with the shift. As a lefty, he had a 428 WOBA with no shift and a 380 with the shift. So there's going to be some regression there. We're going to talk about a guy who should probably drop one side of hitting, but from year to year, it's not consistent which side he hits well at. So there's the argument against that, and he's just not above the other two.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
100% true. I mean, the other two were in the MVP conversation last year, so I don't think you could have J-Ram above them, at least in the NL. But again, he's a complete player. He's top 3 switch hitter, great defense. I mean, what more do you want from a top 3 player at his position?
I think what we're leaving out is a speed threat. I mean, even in his age 30 season, he's still stealing 20 bases. I think that's something that might go up next season. His speed is something that really hasn't gone away. I think the duel of power and speed and now on base percentage is something that makes him one of the best.
Yeah, I like Jose Ramirez. I had him on my fantasy team last year, and he did a lot of damage. He's a nice pick right there. Hopping into number 2 and number 1, really. It's more of a 1A, 1B type situation. In all honesty, these two third basemen are both fantastic. My number 2 has been a fantastic fielder, and he's shown it year in, year out. And it's Nolan Arenado at number 2.
I agree with that. I had Nolan at 2. Stevs.
I think as of right now, heading into the season, Nolan is 1. By season's end, I believe Manny Machado will be the better player.
How's he
I
not
think Manny
right now?
Machado's because he's not. No. I mean, so you look at their stats. They're basic. I'm not gonna say they're the same player. They're on the same tier. 14 outs above average for Nolan Arenado to 9 outs above average for Manny Machado. The percentiles for Machado are better. Red. I literally put on my note sheet red, lots of red. But it's hard to argue against Nolan Arenado. It's 1A, 1B, and heading into the season, I'm gonna take Nolan Arenado on the Cardinals opposed to Manny Machado on the Padres just heading into the season, because I don't think the Padres are honestly going to perform as well, but I think Manny Machado is going to shine on a team of stars.
Who should you say had more red?
Manny.
And so you're taking Arenado over him.
Yes. And for percentiles, again, I don't weigh percentiles as much as you guys do. I said that.
All right, Tom,
But-
do you want
but
to
let me-
kick it
let me-
off, or do you want
yeah,
me to
I'm
kick
not,
it off?
I'm not saying I disagree with you guys. I'm just saying heading into the season, I would rather have Nolan Arenado on my team over Manny Machado.
So, I mean, obviously, I think they're 1A, 1B, but this is coming off of last season. Even like the front stats. Machado finished an MVP above him. He had a higher OPS plus, more home runs. I think he hits the ball harder, and I think obviously I don't think you can weigh in value to your team as much, especially considering that the Cardinals had MVP and then Nolan Arenado. But I think Machado was more valuable to the Padres than Aaron. Sorry, what did I say? I think Machado
right.
is he's more valuable to the Padres than Arenado is to the Cardinals. I don't think you can weigh that in, but when you look at all the stats that I think make a good player, like OPS plus, WOBA, I think Machado wins nearly everything. And I think when you're looking at Arenado, he's a lot more streaky compared to Machado. And I mean, that's something that stats don't really show, but he is on or he is off. And I'm not sure how he's going to start next season, but if he finishes it if he starts like he finished this season, he'll be okay.
Yeah. Nolan Arenado had his best season in terms of F4. It was 7.3. He had his highest career WRC plus at 151. I was surprised to see a low strikeout rate. When I think Arenado, I don't think low strikeout rate, in all honesty. He struggled a lot in 2020 and 2021, and that's kind of weighing into my decision for him to be at number 2. It's also like Manny Machado's in a walk year. Like, I think that has a big impact on it. And it just feels like he's always half a step ahead of Arenado. His consistency is fantastic. His xWOBA is consistently higher, paired with a higher hard hit rate. It's crazy to say, but the defense is almost a wash. They're both incredible defenders. And in terms of WRC plus, Machado's been consistently a tick above Arenado since 2015.
Yeah, and Machado was a guy that I thought had been regressing every year until you look at the under the hood stats where he has been completely red his whole career, other than 2019, which was just more of a pink color. That doesn't really matter. It's still red. So Machado is elite in all those categories. And what I didn't realize is that what I didn't factor in here is that Arenado doesn't strike out. That is kind of crazy to me. I didn't know about that. I thought he was a high strikeout guy. Um, that is kind of surprising. I don't think it's going to change my opinion on it, but that's still impressive to me.
And you brought up the point. The Cardinals they wouldn't be as good, but they had someone other than Arenado. Machado was the Padres.
That is true. Without Machado, the Padres, I don't even know if they would have made the playoffs.
I don't
it
think
was
they
a little bit
barely
close.
made it as it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
obviously
mean,
next season as Roll goes down.
Again, I agree that it's 1A, 1B, and by season's end, I honestly think Manny Machado will he's gonna be top 3 again in assuming no injuries in the MVP race. So I think Machado could and will take over Nolan Arenado.
Well, our list is very good from 10 to 7 and 3 to 1. We have a bit of a conundrum in the middle. So enter Alex Bregman, Austin Riley, and Rafael Devers.
So so who had Bregman at 4? Was that you, Brad? No, that was you,
Me.
No.
Stevs. So Stevs had Bregman at 4. Brad, you had Devers at 4.
I had
And I
Devers
had
at 4.
and I had Riley at 4.
Mhm.
We might have to have a debate here because I'm just gonna explain to me why Austin Riley is worse than Rafael Devers. And
I'll do this again.
yeah, no, because I think Austin Riley, I think the difference between Austin Riley and Devers bat is equivalent to the difference in their fielding. So it almost makes
But
them
it's
even.
no.
Devers has been consistently better for a longer period of time, therefore he is more reliable. And they're pretty similar in age, right?
You also always mention that. You're like, but look at the statistics from seasons prior.
Steves, you like looking at the last week and you judge your player off that. But I agree.
judge based off of last year more.
I love Rafael Devers. Give me a jersey. Rafael Devers at 4, baby.
Yes, sir.
Because it was
Yeah,
literally
I'm okay with that.
no matter what I was going to order, Alex Bregman was going to end up at 5. I felt like that was just a spot for him. It was just a matter of Austin Riley and Devers switching, but it was switching over 2 positions instead of 1.
So now Riley goes to 5 and Bregman goes to 6.
I think so. Is that how it averages out?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'm okay with that too. It's just my thing is Bregman's a 2-dimensional player compared to these guys being a 1-dimensional player.
Their bats are better.
Yeah.
Which is true. I can't argue with that.
Yeah. And honestly, if we're talking about importance to a team, Devers is the Red Sox this year.
Also
and
true.
Riley is a big bat in the Braves lineup. There's no if Acuna doesn't rebound a ton, Riley's the thump.
Yeah.
The consistent thump. Matt Olson has the thump, but there's a lot more or a lot less single stuff like that in there for Matt Olson than there would be Austin Riley, who, as Tom pointed out, when he's hot, is hitting the ball all over the yard on a line.
I love Austin Riley, but I also love Rafael Devers. I don't know. These I think the top 6 are all in that superstar category or approaching superstar category.
Yeah, I think Bregman, if he hadn't had that fall off after 19, would be there. Honestly,
Absolutely.
if Bregman didn't have that fall off, I think he's in the 1-2 conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we forget about his 2019 season. He had 42 home runs or something. Amazing glove.
The Astros were crazy in 2019.
I think I saw the post, the best team ever constructed, or best team ever put on the field.
Yeah. And guess who beat them?
The
Nationals.
How's that going for them right
That's
now?
the only thing I have to hold on to.
You're starting to sound like Tom.
Okay, yes, but it's not as bad. It was literally 4 years ago. It feels like a decade, but it was 4 years ago.
It's gonna be a decade until you win again. So you're gonna be holding on to it just like me. Welcome to the club, Stevs. Yep.
I won't be holding on to it.
Yep.
After 5 years, I will give up on that. Unless you bring up the 2019 Houston Astros or the 2019 season.
Go Giants. The 2019 season was my favorite of all time, I think. But that's a conversation for another day.
Great season.
So some of these third basemen are going to be competing for World Series this year. Some of them, like our number 10, Brian Hayes, will not. Eugenio Suarez coming in at number 9. Mariners looking for a World Series run. It's their window. Same with number 8, Matt Chapman and his Blue Jays, and the Rays. Yandy Diaz at number 7, and Alex Bregman at number 6. Austin Riley at number 5, competing for it. Devers at 4, not competing for it. Jose Ramirez and his Guardians at 3, competing for it. Arenado and his Cardinals competing for it at number 2. And number 1, Manuel Machado of the San Diego Padres. Anything stand out to y'all?
I guess it says a lot. I mean, I don't know if you build a team around a third baseman, but I guess every good team seems to have a good third baseman. So
Yeah.
I mean, you need a staple in the hot corner, and I think each of these guys are.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's also like these are thump bats. Most of these guys, at least. And I feel like
Yeah,
good
these are all-
teams have
yeah.
bats like that.
yeah, these are all offensive difference makers. Even the
And-
weak ones are
And
still
Brian Hayes.
and Brian Hayes, who will be a difference maker if he makes the adjustment.
He
Hit
is
line
in
drive for
Pittsburgh.
Brian. Yeah.
Thank you all for listening to the 4A Baseball Podcast. We'll be back next week, going back to our regular schedule of Tuesday and Friday with releases. Thank you for listening. If you want to interact with us at all, head over to Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. All socials will be linked in the description below. If you've enjoyed, please consider leaving a rating or a review, or if you have any suggestions, we'd love to hear them. We'll see you all next time on the 4A Baseball Podcast. Peace.